feel that I was dead and I became alive because of VRChat. It's difficult to overstate just how much my life turned upside down because of this place. I was, as I said before, I went through a lot of depression. I went through a lot of agonizing loneliness and agonizing hopelessness of just how am I gonna do the things I want to do in this life, and an existential crisis. And then I came to VRChat, and then I was able to do some of those things, and then I was able to do more of those things, and then that opened doors for me to do those things in real life too.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Sweet Talking Podcast with me, your host, Nefertiti. It's great to see you for episode 41 of the podcast. I'm super, super excited to be with you once again to share with you another fantastic guest that we have tonight. Our guest tonight is Ariel Emerald, a videographer in the VR space. They're basically a two-time nominee for the Raindance Immersive Festival that goes on in VRChat, and we're going to talk about their latest work that they've been nominated for. It is called Like Crazy. It's a music video shot completely in VRChat. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of that conversation and get to know Ariel, hopefully more better than any other conversation they may have had, please do check out my Patreon. I'd really appreciate that. That'd be super, super proud of you. If you really like what we're doing here, what I'm creating, I'd really appreciate your support there. But enough of that. Special thanks to my patrons as well. Thank you all for believing me and allowing me to create the things that I've been creating, this podcast, all the streams I've been doing, all the content that I create on YouTube and such. Thank you all so much for making that worth my while. So thank you so much for your support there. It means a lot to me. So let's jump into tonight's conversation with none other than, once again, my guest is Ariel Emerald. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. It's definitely a pleasure to have you.
It's a pleasure to be here. This is really exciting and very cool. I'm just really loving the atmosphere that you're putting up here, and I'm very, very excited to be here.
Oh, thank you. I really do appreciate that. I'm happy that you find yourself comfortable. I try to make my guests as comfortable as they possibly can be. I really do my best in that regard. So I'm glad that you're feeling good about being here. I typically start things off with a little bit of icebreaker. I ask my guests, how are you doing? How's it hanging? Talk a little bit about how you and I got in touch. Basically. I remember that you did a tweet saying that, hey, in case you're wondering, I'm open to collabing, and I'm like, hey, didn't Ariel just get nominated for like best VR music video? That would be really cool to have them on. So I reached out and we talked, and here we are. So I'm very, very, very grateful that you decided to take the time to come to my very humble podcast. We're not like breaking records or anything as of yet, but maybe by the time this comes out on YouTube, maybe we will be, but who knows? But I really do appreciate you joining me this evening. It really means a lot to me.
Oh yeah, it's cool it's a privilege to be able to do stuff like this and be able to come and talk about the things that I've been fortunate to be able to do here in VRChat or on your podcast. It's always amazes me just how much of a privilege it is to have spaces like that to talk about my work. Mm-hmm. And I try not to take it for granted, because it's really a special thing that I've been able to achieve the level of reputation that I have for my work, which is still blows me away.
Yeah, and honestly, like, you being blown away by it, it's because other people are blown away by your work, and I did have an opportunity to take an exclusive peek at your music video, and I'm I'm very, very impressed with it. We won't go into too much detail about it, but we will talk about that for sure. But yeah, you're definitely blowing people away with your skills, with your talents, and just your insight, your writing, and I'm hoping to touch on as much of that as we can this evening. So yeah, I really do appreciate you being on with us tonight. So, as we do with the Sweet Talking podcast, I typically ask my guests, what are their pronouns, just to kind of like clear the air in case there's any confusion. I just want to make sure that I'm not stepping on any toes and that we kind of get that out the way.
Well, I see you using they, them, which I like, and I like she, her as well, and that's fine. Really, as long as it's not he, him, we'll be okay. That's all right.
All right, that's not a problem. I got you. All right, so that's great to hear, and we'll start off with you. And who is Ariel Emerald? And you can be as detailed as you'd like. Just kind of like break it down for people who may not know who you are. Just kind of give people an overview of what it is that you do, who you are, the things that I guess stick out to you personally the most.
What a question. Who is Ariel Emerald? That is, you know, it sounds so simple, but when I really think and try to dig into it, there's just so many layers that I don't even understand. I find myself asking myself that question quite often, to be rather honest.
It's good to self-reflect.
Ariel Emerald is, well, so I am the person that from a very young age I've always been deeply passionate about films, movies. I remember the first moment I think it really started was when my dad took me to go see The Chronicles of Narnia, Lion, the Witch, the Wardrobe in movie theaters, and I just was sucked away into another world. I just disappeared. I was gone. I was in another world in that film. I forgot that reality existed, and I think that was it. I think that did me in. The love affair began that day, and since then, movies have always felt more real to me than real life, I would say. And, you know, the idea of making my own movies has always been something that's been part of my life. I remember joining film clubs and making little movies with my friends back in early grade school, and writing story ideas for grandiose concepts, and I had these ideas for movies bouncing around my head all the time. And it was always just this vague notion, like there's these people out here that actually make these, they actually create these worlds and manifest this thing that did not previously exist, and it's like that just, it blew me away. I think it was when The Chronicles of Narnia, like I said, that movie came out on DVD. There was only one behind the scenes feature on it, which was a blooper reel. But even just in the blooper reel, you can see the green screen. They have a big green screen set up in the background in the woods. And then they have like a guy who's supposed to be a fawn, and he's standing on a cliff, and he's wearing these green leggings with red dots on them. And I think as a little kid, I watched that and I'm just like, what? What? Like, how did they turn that into that? You know?
Yeah.
It's just, it's phenomenal. It blew me away. And then it was around the time a movie I'm sure many of you are familiar with called Inception.
Love that movie. Love that movie.
I watched that movie, and that one finished the job. That movie, as soon as the credits rolled, I saw directed by Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
And I just said, that's gonna be my name someday. That's gonna be my name someday. I'm gonna make a movie that's as cool as that one, and my name's gonna be in it. And at that point, it was like, all right, how do I do this? How do I actually do this? And that's when I started to learn about filmmaking techniques and how films are made and independent filmmaking. See, the realization that you can actually just point a camera at anything and make a movie didn't really hit me until that point. I always thought that it was just like you just throw some magic around and like impossible stuff that requires millions of dollars and millions of people. But really, if you have a camera and a couple people are pointing at, you can make a movie. And that didn't strike me until that point. But see, here's the problem, right? I didn't have a camera, so I had to wait until I could actually get a camera, which I eventually did. First camera that I used was a Canon T3i Rebel. And okay, well, I have a camera now, but the other thing is you need people. And really, you need people more than a camera, if you ask me.
Yeah.
And that's the difficulty, because for me, I've always been a very socially isolated creature. I've always had a lot of difficulty connecting with people and forming those kinds of connections with people that would want to work with me and make stuff with me. And even just people that I could be friends with, that I could have a social framework with. And that was always difficult for me. And it got even more difficult when I left the school that I'd been in for 11 years and went into a high school with about 1,000 people that I didn't know, and they'd all known each other since kindergarten. So that got pretty difficult. But thankfully, I was able to make my first short film in high school, which was a little short film. I say little, but it was too long. It was 23 minutes long. And it was about two people on a train station talking. And they both come from a pretty interesting place. They used to know each other, but they've found themselves at a turning point in their lives, both of them a different sort of turning point, which is kind of symbolized by the idea of a train station. You know, it's a place that's temporary. It's a place where you are while you're waiting to go somewhere else. And so these two people meet. They talk about what happened, why they originally parted ways, because they were friends a long time ago, why they originally parted ways, and then they talk about what's happened since and where they're going to go next. And it's just a conversation between two people talking. It's almost more of a play, to be honest, a filmed play. But that film was my first time ever really making something that I would, call a short film. I don't know if I'll really share it publicly. Perhaps I will if enough people show interest. But it was shown at my high school's film festival. It received a standing ovation from the people there. I made a documentary around that time too. I've made a handful of different projects throughout the years, but after that, I didn't make another film for several years. And the reason was because I left school. I did not do so great in college and dropped out after 1 year. And I did not have any people around me. And I had this big dream and nobody to do it with, nobody to make movies with. And I got very low. I got to a point of depression that lasted for quite a few years. I was moving between jobs. I occasionally found the motivation. I got to a point where I'm like, all right, I'm not doing anything. My life's going nowhere. I'm gonna get a job. I'm gonna work hard, make money, buy film equipment, and I'm gonna just start following my dream. And so I made a lot of money, worked full time, got the film equipment. I have a whole lot of film equipment, but that wasn't going anywhere because I still was missing the people. I still didn't have that element. Because the film industry, the art of film, it's an art of people. It's an art of collaboration. And because I didn't have those things, I wasn't really able to pursue my dream. And I felt so far away. I felt so distant from all of it. And I felt so lost. I didn't know what to do. And it was in those moments that I first came to VRChat. And when I first came to VRChat, I was interested to see if there was a story there, film, I guess. I guess that was part of it. I mean, my other part of it was that I have incredible social anxiety. I cannot really get over myself long enough to have a conversation, or even just to get out of my house and go to a place where I might have a conversation. And I thought, well, I guess people play this thing, VRChat, and they talk to each other, and I guess there's a lot of people that do that. I have a VR headset that I got last year. I might as well give it a shot, When I got into VRChat, the first moment I entered a public world, it was like I kind of skipped the whole great pug black cat thing. I entered a public world, which is of this kind of obscure space map, and I was just exploring around, just kind of lost taken away by it all. And then somebody joined, and they got on the spaceship, and they were coming closer to me. And I swear, the moment that person got within speaking distance of me, I freaked out and I logged off because I was so anxious. Like, that's where my social anxiety was back then.
Sorry to stop you there, Ariel. We will talk about the VRChat type of thing and your journey through VRChat. I absolutely want to talk more about that, 100%. But I wanna stick to you personally. We heard a lot about like your how you got into becoming a videographer, like how your dream came to be with like as a child you saw Chronicles of Narnia, and that's super interesting. But we will get to the VRChat portion of it first, later on, not too far into the future.
I see.
Yeah. So with regards to you, it sounds like
even more fundamental than that.
Yeah, like just like you individually, like not so much like everything that like it seems like being a videographer is inherently who you are. And that's what it seems to a very hefty degree that a lot of who you kind of base your identity on is your creativity and like your love for creating films and writing stories and seeing characters do really cool things. And I think that's great. But with regards to you as an individual, if you don't mind me asking, I'd like to hear about like your name. Like, how did you come up with the name Ariel Emerald, just in general? Because I imagine you said, oh, your name is going to be up there in the credits as the director. It was probably not Ariel, but possibly your given name outside of VRChat. But how did you come up with the name Ariel Emerald? And I guess where did that come from?
Well, I am trans, and it took me. I had a long journey of self-discovery and coming to that point. And I thought about it for a very long time. So I had a lot of time to sort of prep this identity that I wanted to move into. And as far as the name goes, that was something that I heard it in my mind. I could hear the sounds. I knew it started with an A. I knew it had an E sound. I knew it was short. And when I saw that Ariel was the name of an archangel, particularly in Gnostic mythology, which is like an offshoot of Christianity. And I learned more about that name. I learned that the archangel Ariel is often associated with the concept of the demiurge, or the sort of, it's hard to explain the demiurge, but it's like the dark creator, almost. It's like the darker side of God, because in Gnostic mythology, I guess God is split into multiple entities. I'm just gonna sip some water here.
Yeah.
Ariel is the name of a character in a Shakespeare play called The Tempest, and that character is typically not assigned a gender, and it's played by men and women. And there were no, another thing that's worth noting, minor aside, but in the Life is Strange prequel game, the Life is Strange original game was quite influential on me when I first played it. In the prequel game, you actually perform a scene for Tempest where you play as Chloe, the character Chloe in that game.
I remember that.
She actually, in that scene in that prequel game, she actually portrays Ariel, that character, which is it's interesting aside. I don't know. I felt very connected to that name. I felt that it was meeting my needs as I was searching for a new name. And Emerald comes from a song. Emerald is taken from one of my favorite songs of all time, Emerald Rush by John Hopkins. John Hopkins being one of my favorite artists of all time. And the song has such an intense energy to it, and an energy of melancholy, reminiscence. The song to me feels like a surge of energy to overcome a melancholic universe, is what that song feels like to me. Mm-hmm. And I find that I relate to that a lot, I think, because I feel that I am in a lot of ways a melancholy person, and I work hard to kind of fight against that and build something better for myself, I think. And, I was thinking, I have to say I was thinking at the time, like, I want a name that's going to look good in the credits of a movie, but at the same time, I found great meaning in both of those two names, which I do go by Ariel in real life now as well.
Okay, and great.
As far as I see it, that's who I am. I often sometimes find myself lamenting the lack of pseudonymity in VR. I feel like perhaps if I had a pseudonym in VR and I was abiding by that instead, then I might have a different experience. But that's not the experience I have. My experience is that this name, Ariel Emerald, that's just kind of who I am, in VR and out of VR. And it's funny because sometimes it feels empty. Like I said earlier, sometimes I myself have to question who that person is, But I think that keeps me honest. It keeps me curious. It keeps me engaged with asking questions. I don't want to ramble off again if there's another direction you're trying to take this.
No.
Because
no, I appreciate the detail. I certainly appreciate the detail and your explanation of the name. And I honestly, personally, I really love the the thought and the consideration that the layers that went into establishing like the name that would truly fit you. I've always been a person who appreciated very thoughtful names. I've always been someone who's always like, I can tell when someone is a creative person or someone that I would want to get to know. Like I look at their name first, and I kind of draw my conclusions from that, and then depending on how I feel, I'll either approach them or I'll just kind of like draw my own conclusions. But generally speaking, when I find someone with a very interesting, thoughtful name, I'm like, okay, that person is probably someone I'm going to want to talk to and want to get to know, because I'm a very creative person myself, and I can relate to the need of establishing one's identity and doing so in a way that is comfortable and long lasting. Like you don't just want to come up with a name out of thin air. You want to find something that's going to hit hard, and it's going to have meaning, and it's going to have longevity, not just in whatever aspect you're using it in, but with regards to just how other people see you, and how people kind of relate to you through that name. So I really do love I love that you gave an incredible amount of thought, and I think that's great. I love that. So with regards to your experiences and just kind of finding out who you are as a person, I would like to talk a little bit about I guess your journey coming to understand yourself as a trans person. I truly I think it's important to talk about these things and to get perspectives from people who are legitimately living the life. And so I would like to keep this relatively I don't relatively brief. I don't need to have the entire book, but if you can give me like an excerpt from like what kind of
Mhm.
brought you to find out who you are as an individual. And obviously you're more than just a trans person, like that, like that much I know for sure. And I think that's important to make note of as also. It's you're not just that, you're so much more than that. So can you share a little bit about just I guess how you reached that conclusion about yourself and what that's been like for you? Yeah.
Well, that's just the thing, you know. I mean, it's honestly made that journey all the much harder to process because to me, being trans is like the fourth or fifth most important thing about me.
I think as it should be.
Yeah, it's quite something that's in the background for me, and it's something I've had difficulty processing sometimes. But it's I guess the thing that really did it for me, and I guess maybe I don't have as much to say about this even as you think I might have, but I was really passionate about Yuri manga, which I'm not sure if you're familiar.
I'm very familiar.
The meaning of that. You're quite familiar with that. All right.
Yeah.
Then yeah, you understand. I quite enjoyed Japanese lesbian manga stories for a long time before I even really understood why. And then I found a community of people that enjoy those stories as well. I joined a Yuri manga Discord server back in 2017, and at that point, I had never really spoken to queer people before. I was raised Christian. I was raised in a landscape where my parents were never harshly homophobic, but it was always like, gays are over there, that's not us, we're over here, and it's ultimately morally wrong. And I sort of went through stages where I came to the realization, like, oh well, it's not actually, and then actually it's great, you know. But then my own journey to that, I think it just came from a feeling of lacking, feeling of non-existence, like I was an empty being, like I was not whole. And when I read the Yuri manga, I felt whole. You know, I felt like this is where my heart wishes it was. And I had a few other stages on that journey, but I think one of the biggest ones was when I got into VRChat, and in that time I ended up, well, I tested out the experience, right? I was able to use my name that I'd chosen, Ariel, and I was able to wear a feminine avatar, and I was able to try on that experience for a while and realize that it fits, realize that it works. And at that point, I sort of came to a moment where I realized that the only thing holding me back from starting HRT and really going for it was fear. And I had a moment to sort of sit down, properly engage with that fear. And, you know, it's like that's one of the moments that you remember, like exactly how it felt to be in that moment, you know, for the rest of your life. And yeah, a month later I had the pill, I started taking them, and I was like, damn, this is pretty good, and I haven't stopped. So that's about where I'm at. It's not something I think about too often. I don't go through every day just being like, I'm trans. I don't talk about it very often. I just kind of exist. I just kind of let the rest fall into place.
Yeah, I think that was a great excerpt of like the grand tale of Ariel Emerald.
Mm-hmm.
So I really do appreciate that. That I think most people. I mean, I would hope that people who are in a similar situation such as you, just simply want to exist. You know, it's not at the forefront of
Mm-hmm.
every conversation. It's not the thing that keeps them awake at night or they wake up thinking about. It's simply who they are, just like any other individual isn't thinking about, oh, I'm a woman today, oh, I'm a dude today. Like it's not at the
Mm-hmm.
forefront of what people generally think about. And I think I would think that most people who are of the queer persuasion or transgender would be living in a similar fashion. Like they're achieving things, they're living their lives, they have their job, they have their friends, they have their lover, they have all these aspects that makes up the amalgamation of their life experience. I think that's where I would think most people would want to kind of get to that point of just like I'm just living my life. It's not a big deal. It is what it is. And it sounds like that's where you're
that's
at.
partly why I don't really define myself that way. Like I don't want people to define me as a trans filmmaker.
Yeah, I get
or
that.
like I don't want to be known as like one of the best trans filmmakers ever. Like, no, I want to be one of the best filmmakers ever.
Yeah.
I want to just, it's not part of my self-definition. It's just a fact of the matter of who I am and how I live. And it's, to me, what it boils down to these days is just a couple of pills I take in the morning. That's all it is, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just a minor annoyance when my customers at my part-time job call me sir. That's what being my transness boils down to these days. A frustration that I don't have enough new clothes. That's what my transness boils down to these days.
Yeah, just like dealing with people who don't see it or understand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, get that. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, thank you for sharing that. I think it's good to get that perspective because I think there are people who are curious about that like how people live in that regard, but society has kind of demonized people who ask questions, and I think a lot of people are inherently afraid to question and to ask people who are living these lives to like explain to them like what it actually is like for them. So I'm happy to offer a little bit of a chance for people to get a sense of what that's like from someone who's actually living that life. So thank you for that.
Of course.
Yeah. So let's move on to VRChat and how that whole thing came together, because everyone has, I think most of my guests have a different experience of how they got into VRChat. You did touch on how you first got into it and you were exposed to it. You got yourself some film equipment. How exactly, can you refresh my memory of how, like, how did you hear about VRChat initially?
Well,
Can we start there?
I think I heard about it when the Knuckles memes and all that was going around, and when VR was first coming on the scene. And it was something that I was aware of, but I wasn't really paying much attention to until, I was just aware that it existed. I think I may have seen like one or two of the YouTube videos that were the people are having deep conversations in VRChat. But aside from that, I wasn't really aware of anything. I had no idea. And then I came into it sometime later after VRChat had already developed quite a bit as a platform and as a society. And it was October 2021 when I came into VRChat. And by that time, there was already a significant everything. There's a significant club scene, a significant dance scene, a significant amount of technology in place. You see full body tracking for the first time, and it's just like, that's crazy. Like, people just have that. What?
Yeah,
it's
wild when you first see it.
And then and it surprises you how many people have it too
these days, at least. Yeah.
Well, even back in 2021 when I joined, it was like I was blown away by how many people actually had it. And I got very lucky on my first day of talking to people in VRChat. I joined a public world and I sat down and I saw some very very cool people just sitting and chilling. And I feel like I get premonitions sometimes, or messages from the future. I get sometimes in moments like that, where I might walk into a room and see someone and be like, I'm gonna have a connection with this person. I just know it.
Yeah.
And you know, I walked into that public world. I saw those people, and I'm like, these people, I'm gonna be good friends with these people. So I was super anxious, but I just sat there for 40 minutes and didn't say anything until I came to their attention. They started talking to me, and those people became my first friend group in VRChat. Very cool group of people called VR Punks. Anybody who's interested in punk and ska can check them out. Very cool group of people, but that was my first friend group. From there, I right away got into something that I had heard about. I think I read an article about it, and I was very interested. Was the club scene, the rave scene in VRChat, because I'd always wanted to go to clubs and hear that kind of dance music, but it never seemed like there was any clubs around here that played that kind of music I wanted to hear. And even if there were, how was I, a socially anxious nobody, gonna actually get off my ass and go to them, you know? So by the time I got into VRChat, I perhaps, I don't know what it would have been like if I had gotten in earlier, but I'm glad that by the time I got into VRChat, I already had some level of maturity as an adult, and and the society of VRChat already developed significantly to the point that it was amazing and cool beyond comprehension to me at that time.
Yeah. And
those first few weeks, that first month, it feels like it was one long psychedelic trip, because it was just all like discovering a new reality for the first time, a new universe. It's like it was like I wasn't alive before then, you know. It's crazy. And that kind of thing just it fundamentally changed your life. I mean, I think a lot of people will say they spent 5 minutes in VRChat and immediately knew that they were going to spend another like 5,000 hours, which I think it's interesting to note that I have probably crossed 5,000 hours as we've been sitting here speaking today. I happened to notice last night that I had 4,999.9. So as we're speaking now, I'm probably crossing into my 5,000th hour. And in those 5,000 hours, I can't even begin to. I could never have predicted the things that would happen to me in that time. I could never have predicted how phenomenally much this game would change my life. I got into this game thinking, oh, I'm gonna get better at social anxiety, and now I'm a 2-time nominated artist for my films that I've created at festivals. Do you know that the film entrants are screened at Raindance Film Festival in the UK in person? There's an in-person screening of our films over there, not just the VRChat screening. They are projected to a live audience at the Raindance Film Festival in the UK, which is blows my mind.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you know, we get to be showcased at this amazing festival, and the how I got there, I can't even imagine. Just you know, because you know the thing about VRChat is it's so many different things, there's so many layers to it. The more you play VRChat, the more you get involved with it, suddenly it starts to become your lifestyle. It starts to become your work, your time off, your, you know, how you interact with friends, how you interact with partners. It starts to become what you do when you're not in VRChat. It starts to become more and more about VRChat. As a creator, I'm sure you understand, it just kind of takes over.
Yeah, I totally understand, yeah.
So there's so many layers to it, and I'm not sure which direction you want me to go, which in the layers that you want me to explore of it all. But I could talk about my films, whatever makes sense to you.
Don't worry. If you've answered the question, all you gotta do is worry about answering the question. You don't gotta worry about where to go. Just reply. And as long as you answer the question, we'll figure out where to go from there. Don't you worry. So yeah, I mean, that's great. So you first heard about VRChat through you know, the Knuckles meme, which many people initially did hear about that, which makes perfect sense. And now
I think it was more so the article about the club scene that really made me want to get into it, though. I think
Okay.
that was my main driver of what really made me want to get into it.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. And I guess when it comes to VRChat, like you spoke about, like, at the end portion of that, you were talking about how, how VRChat does become something of a lifestyle. It absolutely does. I myself, I understand having like that many hours because I've been in VRChat for 2 years, a little over 2 years now, and I have over almost 3.5k hours. So I'm kind of right there with you with just the time spent in VRChat, which it wasn't always like that, but with regards to it being like another life, like, let's just kind of let's dive into the philosophy or the philosophical portions of VRChat, because I like to talk about these things with certain guests when it comes to mind. So, what is your understanding of the flow of time in VRChat? Do you feel that the flow of time is different here than it is in real life? And do you feel that, and do you experience that in a unique way? Because most people I've asked have agreed with me, but I want to hear like your perspective. Like, have you sensed that in like your extensive time here? Like, you've been in VRChat for 1 year longer than I have. So, like, in your time spent here, how do you understand time and your experience when you inhabit VRChat comparatively to IRL?
That's a phenomenal question. If you give me just a moment, I would really love to turn on my air conditioning. Here, it is. I am dying.
No problem.
I'm actually dying. Hopefully, it won't be loud on my microphone. But I definitely agree with you that the way we experience time in VRChat is different, and it has to do with how fast everything happens and how connected everyone is, and how everybody that is connected to each other is a quite motivated person. I mean, generally, most people that you interact with either are artists, became artists because of VRChat, or are friends with artists. Everybody's quite motivated by, in that sense, and very technically interested and technically enthusiastic. And that kind of thing, everybody wants things to happen fast. People are very impulse hungry. The people that come to VRChat are the people that don't feel at home in other places, and these are the people that have ADHD and autism and other conditions, and these are not bad things to have. I myself am diagnosed with ADHD, but they make the brain function in a different way, and they function in response to stimulus in a different way. And VRChat is a place where everything's so immediate. You can build a creation and have it be immediately there in front of you. You can immediately go from place to place to place. You can go to 3 clubs in the same night and go back to the first one in like 2 seconds. You can bounce all over the place and see all these different people, and because of that, a lot more things can happen a lot faster. But even still, it really takes my breath away how much it can happen. I mean, like, you spend some time with a person, you spend like a couple weeks with a person, you feel like it's been 6 months, you feel like you've known them for half a year.
Yep, absolutely, exactly that. Yeah.
And I don't know what it is. I don't know how the time works. I mean, our best physicists don't. I've read the science. I'm kind of up to date on the theoretical physics. It's one of my passions. But I think perhaps the way that we perceive time is quite a very inaccurate and human thing. I think perhaps these moments that we travel through they are quantified by their magnitude rather than by their speed or the length, and it's like there are moments that I have that I feel like they're still playing in the back of my head. moments that I feel are still out there somewhere, and I've traveled away from it now, but it's still there, it's still real. And I feel maybe there's moments in the future that are calling to me. And I think, in that sense, VRChat is a place where, ironically, despite being even more digitally connected than any other human has been before, you are totally arrested and captive to the moment here. You are every other distraction, everything in your life that is so weighed down with memories and so weighed down with things that pull you away from here, now, yourself, they're outside. They are beyond the barriers of this virtual world. I'm not connected to them. I know that my bed's over there. I know that my computer's over there. I know that this is the room that I've lived in for 26 years of life. But it's not here right now. We're here in this desert, and that itself gives this sense of holistic immediacy that brings us together in a way wouldn't, if you compare that to real life interaction, I've had the pleasure of being able to meet many of my VRChat friends in real life. There's difference to it, but those experiences are so fleeting that they, every moment of it sticks in your mind, right? With these experiences, it's like every moment has such power to it. And I think that's why VRChat time feels like it goes by so fast, because in one moment, and not to mention that, but we gather so much more information so much more quickly. Like, as I look at you now, even just the choice of avatar, the choice of everything, like how you present yourself, how you act, how you talk, that all conveys a significant amount of information to you that I wouldn't get, because in VRChat we are representations of our inner selves rather than representations of our external selves, so we are fully in control of how we present ourselves, and that conveys so much information right away, so we get to know each other very quickly and skip the bullshit. That's why VRChat time is so fast.
It's it definitely comes down to a lot of the things that you brought up, and just like the interconnectivity that happens so quickly and has the potential to happen so quickly. I think you brought up a really good point about these moments that we share in VRChat. They hold a substantial amount of power, and I think it's because I think most people in VRChat people who truly care about being here are looking to exemplify aspects of their soul. They're trying to encapsulate information, like you said, about who they're trying to represent themselves in a way that they most likely are unable to or restricted to in some way in real life, and our ability to do that allows us to have these very interconnected moments, because we should feel at home in these what are essentially skins. We should feel at home in these moments, and yet we continue to just have these moment to moment. We can jump from moment to moment. We can be in darkness. We can be in this dark desert one moment. We can be in a very well lit beach area the next moment. We can be in a cozy rainy house the next moment. And so I think that our brains are trying to, I think our brains kind of narrow our sense of time because we are following different rules. And I think the more time we spend here, the more used to just following different rules that our brains kind of process that information. And so we, in turn, don't really think about time, because when we're here, all that really matters is what we're doing in the moment. It's less about how much time we have left to do the thing that we're doing, and more so about we are doing the thing right now. We've chosen to do the thing right now, and there are so many things that we can choose to do in the moment. And having that kind of control over it, it kind of it frees us from the needs of time. because we have more control over where we are and who we're with, and that makes our experience here, I think, that much more fulfilling and impactful. And so, like, I agree with pretty much everything that you're saying, and it's very fascinating. But I do think it has something to do with the fact that we are in this space, and we could be in any. And also one other thing about that I want to mention, the idea that we, like, in most worlds, there's no passage of time. So we are in spaces that also don't show any signs of the passage of time. And as long as we remain, like, absent of that thinking, we could spend hours in a place that shows no sign of darkness or light. It's simply the space that we're in. And so we have no sense of, like, okay, well, it's getting dark outside, I need to go somewhere, I need to go home, I need to go to sleep. We can just be in a club and then go somewhere else, and so on and so forth. It's pretty fascinating. And I love talking about this sort of thing. I haven't talked about it in a while, so I'm a little bit rusty on my own personal theory, but a lot of what you said pretty much aligns with a lot of the things that I have thought about for many months now. I've kind of moved on from the mystery of Phantom Sense to the mystery of time and how it applies to the experiences that we have in VRChat, because I've since kind of figured out Phantom Sense for myself. So, do you have Phantom Sense, Ariel? Are you one of the lucky ones who just kind of have it?
It's interesting to note that I think I have less now than I did when I started playing.
Really?
I think when I started playing, I noticeably had more, and then I kind of got used to this life I feel, and I don't know, I feel that I have less.
That's interesting. I haven't heard of regression of Phantom Sense. I've only heard of progression. So, do you have any understanding of how that happens? Do you think it's just simply your brain has gotten accustomed to being in this space, and so it's more of an acceptance of just kind of being here, or perhaps it could be, maybe is it perhaps related to social anxiety or anything of that sort?
I think I'm much more pragmatic with it. I think it has to do particularly with people's relationship with their own real life body. I think that in a lot of cases, people that have Phantom Sense are people that don't feel particularly connected to their body in real life, and they feel much more strongly connected with their body in VR. I think that the quality of their tracking setup probably also has much to do with it. It's worth noting, I've never had very high quality tracking. I'm still on the same Rift S that I started playing VRChat on back in 2021. Amazingly, despite it all, this thing is still alive and kicking, and I've been, well, you know, I've been too broke to buy another headset until the point when I wasn't, and I made a gamble on the big screen beyond, and that gamble unfortunately did not pay off well for me, because I've not been satisfied with that product yet.
I heard about that. Yeah.
So I'm kind of stuck here with my Rift S, wondering what the next headset's going to be. And my tracking is rather, the cheaper sort of IMU Haratora X full body tracking, which is not quite very accurate. So it's not like I'm getting the benefits of a very accurate tracking setup. And I have to wonder how much those things play into it, partly because I'm in a lot of ways quite comfortable with my body in real life, but at the same time, I also don't feel particularly connected to my body in VR. I think I am a puppeteer, and I'm puppeteering this model, and I don't really feel connected to it, that it's my actual body. I don't know. Those are some of the thoughts in my mind about why I don't have a very strong Phantom Sense.
Gotcha. Yeah, I do think that having that connection, and which is facilitated largely through having full body tracking and accurate full body tracking for that matter, I think that really does play a part in potentially enhancing the experience of developing one's fandom sense, if that was one's desire to do so. But it's good that you mentioned that like like you said that you aren't very connected with your body in real life, or that you are.
In real life, I've become only more and more connected with my body over the past few years. Quite fond of my body in a lot of ways. I mean, it's not perfect, and there's issues I need to work on, but I I feel quite confident in my body, and I'm athletic. I like to ride my bike and dance. And well, I dance a lot in VR, and that's another situation where I feel that my tracking does not quite really reflect what I'm actually doing when I'm dancing.
I feel that.
Unfortunately, I'm just too broke to get a better solution right now. But
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Well, so moving on from Phantom Sense, we kind of like touched on that and talked about that for a little bit. With regards to just your experiences in VRChat and how that's all kind of come together for you, and what you've experienced and what you've noticed through your time in VRChat. Can you share one thing about VRChat that you wish could be improved, and one thing about VRChat that you are that you find to be, good and satisfactory of VRChat? And it can't be the people. It can't be the people here, because you and I both agree that there is an abundance of creativity, of artists, of people who make the community what it is. So it has to be something else that you find like really positive about VRChat, and one other thing that you can improve about it. So one of each.
Gotcha. I think that the thing that, in my mind, is the most important, really fundamentally positive thing about VRChat is the very extremely limited amount of oversight of the community by developers. I mean, fundamentally, moderation is deeply important. Every platform needs strong and unbiased and accurate moderation in order to maintain the health of its population. But as far as online communities go, VRChat has got to be one of the most hands-off with its own community that I've ever seen. And in that case, they open the doors for the community to kind of self-organize and build their own social structures and build their own social mores and like develop their own sort of ideas of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And it fosters independence in people, because not everybody's going to understand what your personal rule set for comfort is going to be. However, you have a significant amount of control over your own comfort in this game, in your own experience. You're able to, eliminate people that are uncomfortable to you from any space. You're able to, eliminate annoying sounds or whatever's bothering you, whatever is making this experience uncomfortable. You have a lot of control over how to control that. So the fact that there's not much like people enforcing rules and telling you what you can't do means that people kind of you might think that it would almost form a kind of anarchic society, but in a sense you have self-organization, self-structure of these communities, people coming together and mutually deciding what's best and mutually supporting each other, building these worlds together. And bad things happen, but really that's just a factor of the humanity of it all, is that, you know, groups break down and fall apart. That's just gonna happen because people are flawed and people have issues, and people, sometimes close friends, eventually reach a point where they just can't be around each other, and it hurts. There's a lot of pain, but that's part of life, and that's part of the human experience. And the human experience is constantly happening very, 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 very fast in VRChat, as we've discussed. And they just kind of let it grow naturally. That's what's so great about the VRChat community. And one thing that I think could be improved, well, I think my answer's rather unique, perhaps, but I would love to see this whole experience be more persistent and all consuming, in a sense. And what I mean by that is, like, the process of opening Steam VR, getting into VRChat, going between worlds, opening menus, contacting your friends on Discord or whatever. There's a lot of things in that process that take you out of the space and out of the moment, out of the here and now. You know, even walking through a portal, it doesn't feel like you're traveling through a portal. You just walk into a portal and then everything fades to black and there's a loading screen. You know, it's like if it was a portal and you walk through and then you get sucked into this portal and then you can zoom through like hyperspace and then you land in the other world, you know.
Yeah, I think
that's persistence.
I think they were trying to go for that, like when in early VRChat. I think that's what they were trying to go for, like at least with the loading screen. I mean, it's still the same idea with the loading screen, but I'm pretty sure they were kind of going for that hyperspacey type of feel, like with like the old like classic.
See, I never saw that. I never saw that. You know, it was before my time, but I like that idea better because I like the idea of having that persistence. A friend of mine introduced me to Resonate last night and showed me all around Resonate.
I've heard about that,
what
yeah.
they have to offer. And that is a very, very, very different space and environment than VRChat that has very different strengths and very different or weaknesses. But also, it's just there's like no loading screens, which is kind of messed up, but cool at the same time, because you'll load into a world and there'll be no textures and everything's loading, but then you're going to go to a new world, right? So you join a new world, it loads in the background, and then like, let's say your friend is going with you, you know, it loads in the background, and then bam, you're there. Oh, controller drift. Bam, you're there, and your friend is there already, and there's no loading screen. It's just like you just zapped into it, and it's like it's not like elegant, but it's persistent. It keeps you in the moment. And I think that's interesting. I would like to see a VR experience of this scale be more persistent and feel more connected in that way, rather than just a series of disconnected rooms that everybody's in. I want it to feel more connected, more like a city, more like a universe, a metaverse, as they say.
Yeah. Have you heard of VR Underground?
Yes, I've been there many times.
Okay. So is your thinking somewhere along those lines? Because I do know that Castle is very, very passionate about that idea of persistence and creating a space where people can just kind of hop from space to space as if they're in a city without having to go through portals or anything like that. Just something that's its own standalone experience of a persistent space where various people are creating simultaneously in that space, kind of like, any other traditional city. Are you looking for something along those lines or something a little bit different?
Just, if you give me one moment to calibrate, I'll answer your question.
Sure.
I would say that, well, sorry. Yeah, better. I would say that that experience that Castle is trying to create is something ambitious to the point that it exceeds the limits of VRChat as a platform.
Yeah. You're so right. You're so right.
And
about
I respect,
that.
I respect that ambition. I respect that ambition, but I don't think it's fundamentally possible to achieve something like that in VRChat in its current form. I think that there's a number of things that could be done to make this space feel more interconnected. I think that the journey between worlds is the biggest point of weakness in my mind, but also having a messaging system within the game so you don't have to leave VRChat and go to Discord to message your friends. Having a video call system so you could video call somebody who's in another world in VRChat and like speak to them that way would like that would do a whole lot to
yeah.
Having other kinds of different interconnections that are persistent. Like you're never going to convince me that like this world and like VCAT are in the same physical location. Like they're not in the same city or whatever, but you could at least have some kind of idea of like that makes it more persistent. I mean, like maybe you open a portal, you could see through the portal and you can see people moving on the other side of the portal or something like that. I don't know. It's yeah, something that makes it feel more like a just connected than just like a set of rooms. So many of which are empty, yeah, as it were. That's the other thing. I would like to see more systems for world discoveries that people aren't just using the same top trending worlds, and you see like tens and thousands of people in those top trending worlds and 0 people in like 90% of the other 10,000 incredible worlds.
Yeah, but I mean that sort of thing is, I mean, you and I both know this. That sort of thing is bound to happen when you have such an abundance. When you leave everything very hands off. People create what they create, and sometimes it gains popularity, sometimes it's just something that someone created in the moment, and maybe someone will see it, maybe somebody won't. And I mean, that comes with any level of creative prowess. You put something out into the world, and it doesn't always get the attention that you may think that it deserves. And it's just something that's kind of a byproduct of the creative process. There's just an overflow of that going on, and thank goodness that people are just creating things because they want to, not simply for the purpose of becoming a popular creator, but simply because they had an idea and they wanted to realize that in a space that maybe somebody somewhere at some time might appreciate it. And I think all in all, that's kind of the beauty of VRChat, and being able to create things that may or may not be seen. And it would be quite cool to maybe have like an area of like these are some really cool worlds that people haven't visited in a long time, like maybe like a category like that. But I think that'd have to be pretty curated to make that happen. But I do think that would be pretty nice to, like, to some degree, maybe have some sort of algorithm that can identify through certain parameters. Hey, this world is it was once popular, maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, but it hasn't been visited in a while. Maybe you should check it out and see, or maybe like an actual like For You page, like based on your world tastes. Like these are some worlds that maybe we think that you'll enjoy. But it doesn't really solve like the main issue of what you're referring to, of like having a more persistent experience in VRChat. And I'm not sure. It would be interesting to see if VRChat could achieve something of that caliber, but I'm not 100% sure, because now I just kind of had an epiphany actually. I don't know how familiar you are with anime, but it feels like VRChat feels a lot like the traditional .hack sign, where there are just worlds that exist. Like you put in like keywords, and then you just go to a random world, and there's just numerous worlds that exist based on those keywords that exist, and you're just kind of going to those spaces. And sometimes they're popular, sometimes they're not. And worlds gain popularity based on people finding these worlds and sharing it through word of mouth, or just something happening that that brings people to that world for whatever reason. So I mean, that just kind of occurred to me just now, that it feels similar to and from a design perspective, that's similar to like what Dot Hack Science was trying to do. But all in all, I agree. Having something a little bit more interconnected, where people can, be more in the moment to be able to communicate without having to exit from, without having the need of like an overlay, creative and the overlays to like get access to that sort of stuff outside, like on our computers and such. To have everything here would be pretty amazing if they can pull that off. But yeah.
Well, I'd hope they make the headsets more comfortable too, so
True.
that we can actually exist in this space for a long period of time without hating our physical pain that is experiencing on every part of our bodies.
Exactly. So true. I know there are a lot of people who like limit their exposure to VRChat solely because it's uncomfortable physically. So it's definitely the technology has to certainly catch up, and I'm sure, I'm not sure, but it's a possibility. It's a strong possibility that the technology will get to that point where we can prioritize comfort, and still get the same amount of power and fidelity that the bigger toaster headsets give to us. So here's hoping. So what kind of future would you like to see with regards to VR? You expressed your thoughts about VRChat specifically, but do you have any idealized goals? Obviously, anything that may be theoretical that you would like to, ideally, personally, you would like to see VR go maybe the next 5 to 10 years or so, if you believe there is a future of VR 5 to 10 years from now.
Oh, I hope there is. I hope I'm part of it. I hope I help build that future. I hope we all help build that future. All the people that are here in VRChat, this is not going to last forever. Spoilers, VRChat's not going to last forever. And whatever comes after that has to be something that gets built from the ground up. Grassroots, very much in touch with its community in the same way VRChat is. And the people who are here now are going to remember this, and they're going to build that, I think, because I don't think anybody else is going to build that for us. I don't think that Meta is going to build a universe with as much freedom and expression as VRChat. I think they're going to build something corporate and filtered and for babies. Where you can buy assets instead of creating them in the Unity engine, and you are limited to whatever creators are approved to, whatever corporations are approved to sell things to you, and I think that that's not acceptable to me. We need something open source and decentralized and grassroots to be the future of VR, and I think that goes for software and for hardware. I think that you're already seeing people buy the available headset hardware and then customizing it into these atom bombs of just like ridiculous design of all the different features they're trying to add on, programming that so that it all works. Like people who have stuck some of the most ridiculous things onto a headset. I think sadly it's Bradley just had a great thread on that on Twitter about, he's like, guys, post your illegal VR headset modifications or whatever, or something crazy like that. And he posts his Quest Pro that's like modified, so the front of it's completely like taken off and has like a Vive face tracker and like all this other crap attached to it. And people post their like crazy ass looking headsets. I think that's the future. I think you'll see more people start to democratize that technology and build their own headsets, because it's kind of looking bleak as far as companies giving us what we actually need in a headset. So that's part of my thought about what to do with this big screen beyond that's lying around over here, is see if I can try to work that up into something that suits me well enough and turn it into one of those looks like it's about to explode VR headsets, that kind of thing. But yeah, open source, decentralization, building a platform that can be modified by its users and progressively expand itself and you know, be completely sort of holistically connected to, you know, necessary XR runtimes that are, you know, persistent in terms of, you know, VR and AR. I guess since AR is not going away as much as I think it should, it seems to be that people think it's better than VR, which I vehemently disagree with. But I don't want a computer stuck to my face everywhere I go. I would like to experience the here and now in every moment, whether that is in VR or not in VR. I would like to be present in the here and now, and I don't think I can do that if I have a computer on my face, putting pop-ups in my face, you know. But as far as VR, I watched Ready Player One recently in 3D. I've seen it before, but this time I watched it after. I think the last time I watched it was before my time in VRChat, and then recently I watched it after all this experience in VRChat. And I posted a long thread about it on Twitter, but that's not really a movie about VR even. It's a movie about society.
Yeah.
And how the society within the VR space in that world is so different than the one outside of it. Because you see, I think it's probably the most realistic, futuristic movie, because you have a society that's completely torn itself to shreds with AI. Like, it's destroyed almost every job, and people are out of work. People have nothing, but they can come into this virtual space and scrape away their own existence. And the interesting thing about that society, it's like the Oasis is much more gamified than VRChat. It has like a game to it. Like, you shoot bad guys, you get coins, and that actually can affect your real life wealth. You can purchase items that are sent to you. You can buy food. You can keep the lights on that way, and that's kind of a scary idea. But it does also present an interesting look at where we're headed in terms of people working remotely, people, you know, codifying their entire existence to what they can do on their computer at home. And if you know, assume that eventually someday gets integrated into the metaverse, then you have this look at the future of like people making their living, making their existences this space. And then you have to question what are the ethics or the morals of that, which I'm not going to get into, but it's a lot. And the way I see it is the people that are here now, the people that can see how in many ways utopian VRChat is. It's not perfect, but it is the closest thing to a utopia that any of us have ever experienced. We really need to keep those ideals strong. We really need to keep this sort of spirit alive and keep that fire alive for the next generation, and keep that going into the future of VR, and anchor that in place firmly as much as we possibly can. And because if society does end up being so deeply centered around something like a metaverse, that can completely redefine how we experience society. It could change the future of the human race. You know, it could change how people interact. I mean, right now I would say that Twitter, just the sole existence of Twitter, has already had a significant impact on American politics and politics around the world.
Absolutely.
Right? So imagine the impact of the next era of social media in something like the Oasis from Ready Player One. Like, that would have a fundamental impact on society as a whole. And so I think that the authorship of that world, that space, needs to come from people who are responsible, who understand the decentralization and the power in the hands of the individual and in the hands of the community that we have here in VRChat, and how that should translate to the next evolution of whatever this ends up being.
Yeah, that was very well put, extremely well put. I'm tempted to share my own thoughts, which are, you know, very much in agreement with yours. I'll try to keep my response relatively brief, but yeah, I truly do think that what we have here is something that is on the cusp of, like, we are on the cusp of something new, fresh, novel, very creative, but also extremely society changing. The more people find out about VR and the technology that are in place, the more people who have money and power will want to take advantage of it. So I'm a firm believer in having those of us who are here and recognize the value that this platform is providing for us, not just from a creative standpoint, but from an overarching, just, I guess, mental, psychological, emotional standpoint. VRChat has changed so many people's lives, just simply by giving people a space to express themselves in a way they are unable to, or maybe restricted to in real life. And I think this is something that is worth protecting. So it will be up to us to keep what we have here, whether it's VRChat or some other future iteration of it, some evolution of what we're currently in right now. It'll be up to us to protect it and to make sure that people who have the means to create and decentralize and to make sure that whatever the future is of VRChat or any other VR technology it'll be up to those of us who have been here, who recognize the value of it now, to speak on behalf of it and to protect it from those who may want to
Absolutely.
utilize it for like their own ends, for some sort of money-making process, like putting ads in mirrors, for example.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like stuff like that. Yeah. So it's very, very important for us to, this may be something that we take for granted now, but I think it's so important that those of us who really do love what we have here and have had literal life-changing experiences here, to be aware that there may come a time when we may have to fight for the future of what we want this to be, like many people have in terms of the internet. Keeping the internet free and open in that regard. Like we may have to do the same for VRChat and any other platform that we get involved with.
And the internet is slowly falling. It's that freedom. Every day we see more of it being lost. I mean, there's the word going around, and shitification, that everything's just getting shittier. All these websites getting shittier because everybody's just trying to suck value out of it as much as possible. That will find its way to VR, and it's very true. We just have to anchor it in a way that is self-replicating, open source, but anchor it so that is self-replicating, and then it has to stay open source in order to continue to be self-replicating. Like if they kill one fork, another fork will become the more popular one. Like if it's going to it has to be democratized. Yeah. And it sucks for me because I know nothing about development. I know nothing about how to code or make XR stuff. The only thing I have is ideas, and I know how to point a camera and maybe I can send messages with my camera. Maybe I can share the wonders of the space and help out that way.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's there are so many creators, people who are creating, who are DJing, VJing, people who are creating content, videos, artwork. There's a lot to appreciate about VRChat, and I do think that we will have to kind of prove that VRChat isn't just a cesspool of degeneracy and ERP. I think we will have to kind of defend against that. Sure, societies will be societies, and I think it should be expected that societies will be societies, but there's still good things to be found here. And with that in mind, I want to ask you, this will probably be the last question I ask about VRChat and VR technology as a whole before we move on to your creative pursuits. I want to ask you, how has VRChat changed your perception of maybe even yourself, or perhaps they've even helped you. I know you said earlier that that you were looking to, I guess, rebel against your social anxiety that has been trying to kind of hold you down and restrict you from interacting with people. Has VRChat actually assisted in that regard? And can you tell us about how VRChat has made a difference in your life in that regard?
Oh man, I would say that through VRChat, I discovered that I'm actually an extrovert. Which
really?
is wild. I actually really like being social and talking to people, and I'm actually really good at it. And people like talking to me. I hope, I guess.
Yeah.
It seems that way.
Do.
So, it's given me, it's completely, redefined my ability to be social. And not only that, but to be social in such a space where I'm connected to so many unbelievable creators, people I never thought I would have ever met. Like I'm here sitting in my room. This is, this plastic toaster on my face, and I can go and talk to people on the other side of the country, from Japan, from Europe, Australia. I can meet people that are, because the thing about people that are interested in this space, that's what's really interesting about it. Because it's a space that enables tools for free creation, the people that are most interested in it are the people that are doing some of the coolest shit known to man.
True.
Right?
So true.
Like at Raindance Immersive last year, I attended a world tour. Actually, no, that was 2 years ago. I attended a world tour of one of the worlds, Namuwanki by Kevin Mack. And he's talking about his world. He's sharing some of the technology that he used on the world. He talks about this, and he's like, yeah, that has some of the technology that we used on Fight Club back in the day. And I was just like, I'm sorry, did you say Fight Club? And he's like, yes, I was the visual effects supervisor on Fight Club.
Oh, wow.
And I'm just like, and now he's here in this space, the same space where I go to clubs and get hammered and say stupid shit to my friends. Like that's what's so crazy about this place, is that it's so connected to everything, every industry. I met people from every industry. I met people from every trade, every craft that you could imagine, that are of significant success or skill or talent. It's just really, really phenomenal. And these people, the other thing that really fascinates me about VRChat is that people don't usually just come here to create. They generally also build their life here. They come to VRChat to see their friends. They come to VRChat to be with their partner. They come to VRChat to chill out, relax, to play games. Like people don't just dip their toes in usually. I mean, most people are all in or all out, and even when they're out, they're still in. And that's what really fascinates me. And for me, my personal experience in VRChat, how it changed my life, I feel that I was dead and I became alive because of VRChat. It's difficult to oversee just how much my life turned upside down because of this place. I was, as I said before, I went through a lot of depression. I went through a lot of agonizing loneliness and agonizing hopelessness of just how am I gonna do the things I want to do in this life, and an existential crisis. And then I came to VRChat, and then I was able to do some of those things, and then I was able to do more of those things, and then that opened doors for me to do those things in real life too. And it's you asked me 2 years ago if I'd have a movie at Raindance Film Festival, I would say there's no fucking way that's happening. There's no way. But look at this. I mean, what more can I say? It's completely sent me in a new direction. It's made me believe that I'm able to achieve the things that I wanted to achieve in this life, and it's given me hope. It's given me purpose. It's given me direction. It's given me a plan, of actionable, workable plan for how to follow my dreams.
And so with regards to, you know, all the emotions and the debilitating mental struggles that you were going through, so VRChat did help you. Like you said, you became you understood that you were an extrovert. Did VRChat essentially reduce the amount of social anxiety that you feel, and are you able to like transfer that into your real life?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not going to solve the problem for you.
Of course,
it's very important to know.
Yeah, of course.
It changes the context. It gives you all the tools that you need to achieve anything you could possibly want to achieve, and places those tools right in front of you. And you can take that and run with it, do your thing. Or you can, you know, stand at the door and wait, yes. And sometimes, you know, you move forward in one direction, you're lacking in another. I found that I socially isolated quite a bit while I was working on this latest project, this music video. And when I got back to actually socializing, I had a lot more anxiety because of the fact that I hadn't had a whole lot of experience doing that lately. So it absolutely, it's not, like I said, it's not going to solve the problem for you. It's not going to change who you are as a person, but it's going to change your context. And it's actually interesting because you see a lot of people in VRChat that don't have a whole lot of experience socially before VRChat.
Correct, yeah.
And
absolutely.
have a lot of issues with that kind of socialization. And then they come into VRChat and become very social creatures, but they have a lot of baseline concepts and fundamentals of, you know, common sense social interaction that they never formed, and they can really get emotional whiplash and experience these really, really wild emotional states from the social interaction, the overwhelming social interaction you get here in VRChat. And it's interesting to see that, you know, see people that were formerly, you know, depressed loners suddenly, you know, almost immediately be thrust into the spotlight as highly connected and respected and established creators. And people can't handle it sometimes. I can't handle it sometimes. You know, I hit roadblocks. I hit breakdowns. I hit moments where I can't really make sense of reality anymore. And that's, you know, I think even there's a point where you're in VRChat for a long enough time, you get through all of the, oh wait, being social isn't that hard. Oh wait, I'm actually an extrovert. Oh wait, I can go out and do these things in real life too.
Yeah.
Then you get to the point where you start to get to the heart of all of it, and you start to get to the heart of, okay, but what's really inside me that I haven't addressed? What's really going on that's still hurting despite it all? And I think the most important thing about VRChat is you can't hide. You can't be anything less than the truest version of yourself. It's not really possible. You can intentionally deceive, but you can't hide. Your true self will come out in some way or another. It will be perceived. And that's kind of a mortifying experience for a lot of us that are not so socially connected prior to this experience. And grappling with that can be a challenge sometimes. I think past the 3,000 hour mark into the 4 and 5, things get a little harder even. And I don't know if other people would agree with me, but I think that suddenly you're normalized, you're adjusted to the space, and now you're starting to pick up on the nuances of what's actually not all right with your mental, and that starts to become an issue, I think. That's why I think balance is important, having a very balanced understanding of who you are, where you are in this world. And I can't even say that I'm very good at that necessarily, but that's important for every VR player, I think, is to keep a sense of balance about where they are and not just be so stimulus hungry that they only thing that they can possibly perceive is what's directly in front of them, which is what the space really is. It's just raw stimulus.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's different for everybody.
Sorry if that got too heady.
Oh, no, absolutely not. No, absolutely not. Like I enjoy these kinds of conversations because, like, you know, there are people who truly do struggle with these sorts of things, and I like to ask these sorts of questions because I think it's important for people who may be struggling with very similar issues to hear it from someone who is, you know, who has found some manner of a path forward, but is still, you know, still searching, still struggling, but finding someone who they can relate to in that regard, and like someone who doesn't have it all figured out, but has it figured out a little bit more than they do is, you know, that's a reason why I love doing what I do and presenting the podcast the way that I do, because I hope that the guests that I have on, you know, they may be doing really cool shit in VRChat, but, you know, we all have our issues, especially as creatives. Creatives have some of the most, you know, significant issues mentally, emotionally, and that we're constantly trying to navigate through them. And, you know, you mentioned, like, once you get to like the 3.5K hour mark in VRChat, that it gets more difficult. I haven't actually thought of it that way, that it would get more difficult, but I have found that with more knowledge and more insight of how VRChat functions as a platform and the people that you've kind of collectively met over the course of your time here, and in the course of essentially, you know, building what ultimately amounts to a second life here, navigating that, and then monitoring and managing your own emotional and psychological well-being in the midst of all of the people that you know and the connections that you've made and the people who may be vying for your attention. As a creative, that's pretty hard to do. And, you know, even if you're not a creative, like if you are self-aware and you're paying attention, it can get pretty challenging to navigate through all of that. Yeah.
Also, it can change in an instant.
Oh yeah, you can like lose somebody immediately. They would be like, "Yeah, I don't like you anymore."
It can,
yeah.
It can be just happen like that. It can be a chemical thing. I mean, I think I was very caffeinated for like 3 months straight working on this project, and I came off of that. I was in the pressure cooker. I had my head in a vice, and I was like, I just have to get this thing done. And I came out of that, and I was like, I felt like the floor beneath me was gone in a lot of ways. It's been a weird time since I finished that project because, I don't know, it's a weird transitional period like that. But also on top of that, it's like there's moments where I've been so certain of my friendship with someone that was like the architect of my friend group, and then the next day they are gone and that friend group doesn't exist anymore. It's splintered and collapsed, and in a moment it's all over. The family that I had is broken, and you know, that's the other thing about VRChat is people don't go away. They're still there. And it's like, yeah, maybe if somebody like, you know, hurts you, or you get hurt because you're around someone, and then you might still know where they are, what they're doing for the next foreseeable future. They might be connected to your friends. They might be in the scene that you're in. They might be like out doing their own thing loud and publicly, right? So it's like people don't go away. That's the thing. You can't really block people in VRChat because they're still there. Other people are going to interact with them, and that's one of the really interesting difficulties of VRChat, especially in that later 4,000, 5,000 hour mark, because you really get so entrenched in this network of people, and that when one thing gets affected in that network, it has rippling effects. Spread. It's difficult to say, and your feelings about people from a distance, because really it's all from a distance. I don't know if you've ever looked into the concept of parasocial relationships.
Oh, as a streamer, I know about it. I have firsthand experience as a streamer. Yeah, I got you.
But it's like, even in VRChat, even if you're speaking to someone, talking to someone, it's still, you can get to know someone incredibly well in VRChat, but there's still such a distance that, in a way, you can form parasocial relationships with people and you can build versions of them in your mind that don't exist. And I think that in the in-person interaction has some of this too, but it's it's so much more tactile, so you can reach through that and gain that tactile sense of who a person actually is. You can see the changes in their facial structure when they convey emotions to you that might indicate something. You can see the minute details of how they behave that give off like 90% of information that a person gives you doesn't come from their voice, right? It comes from their body language, their facial expression, how they look, how they feel, the vibe they give off. I think we have kind of a sixth sense of other people's emotions when you're with them like that. But so I think that you have a few factors. You have a lot of fucked up people hanging out with a lot of other fucked up people, and I mean that only in the sense of just people have mental illnesses, people are not addressing trauma and stuff like that.
I mean, you could even say that we're all fucked up in some way, shape, or form. So even
I agree. Yeah. That's why we come to VRChat, because we're not so good at existing in reality. So we come to VRChat. So you have a lot of fucked up people hanging out with a lot of other fucked up people, and not maybe addressing their mental health issues in the best possible way. And then you combine that with this, it's connection. We're so connected, and yet there's such disconnection too.
Oh my God, I've said that exact thing. I've said that exact thing.
I can see you sitting there. Yeah, I can see you sitting there, and I could maybe get to know you over the next few years, and we get to know each other super well. But still, that's not. There's still something missing. There's still some gap of what we're not getting, and then you cap that off with just how fast everything happens around here. Fast. Everything changes fast. People want things to happen fast. If you don't like someone being in your life, you're gonna deal with that fast. And then you get into a lot of whiplash. You get into a lot of swings. Like, you'll swing over here, everything's great, awesome, and then you swing over here, and everything's terrible. And suddenly you don't even know how you could possibly function. Then you'll swing back over here, and everything's awesome. You're confident. You're the best person, best version of yourself you've ever been. And it's like, I'm thinking about that a lot lately. Like finding balance, finding peace. But because we exist in a world of such intense and constant and ever-present stimuli, and we are all beings that respond so aggressively to such ever-present stimuli, we get pushed into this aggressive swing of our emotional states. Like, for most people, I apologize for my controller drift here. It's I've been thinking about that a lot lately. I'm thinking about how it affects me and thinking about how it affects other people. I'm thinking about how it affects my work.
Mm.
That's been on my mind lately.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like it doesn't really come into my mind until it happens, and it's usually when it's the negative swing that I kind of realize it. Because like yeah, again as a creator, you have your moments where things are just kind of going in a really positive direction, and then some random ass thing happens, and all of a sudden you find yourself in the desert, not knowing where to go. You're lost, and you're trying to find your way, trying to navigate through an experience that you didn't see coming. And like you said earlier, it does have rippling effects. The relationships that we form, the people that we surround ourselves with. It has detrimental, sometimes positive, but like in most cases, I don't really notice it until it actually happens to me, and then I have to think about it and face it, which I typically do. I'm not one to really shy away from things that are difficult to do. I like to solve things head on and to really resolve things as quickly as possible. Because again, things happen so fast, and people craft their own stories, their own ideas of what it means, and what it means to care about a person or an individual in general. We craft our own ideas, even if we've known them for like a long period of time. And again, time is weird, and that we may know someone for a couple of weeks. It feels like we've known them for months. So like we've like built up this framework of individuals in our mind. I mean, if we're critically thinking, we should have these ideas and frameworks of individuals in our head, and then something happens and it just messes up the entire equation of what we thought was to be true. And a lot of what we're talking about right now applies to reality also. Things happen in our daily lives that can be out of the blue, and it just swings our life in a completely different direction, and we have to learn how to deal with that there. It's just a lot less, we have to deal with it over the course of time in reality. In VRChat, typically things that are happening that are not so great are purely social. It's a social issue that we're typically dealing with in VRChat, not so much the case in IRL. So it's a little bit different, and something we all have to kind of deal with in that regard. But with regards,
and plus the crossover between VR and IRL.
True. Yeah. So with regards to just kind of thinking about it in your work and your creative process, I do want to get into your creative stuff. We've talked a lot about other aspects, other parts that affect both yours and my creative processes, but you specifically. We know how you got into how the spark was lit, the fire was ignited in your soul for becoming a videographer. So I suppose we should just kind of jump into just how the things that you've created now, and how your experiences in life, despite being 26 years old.
26.
Okay. So I did catch that. So despite being, in your mid to late 20s, your experiences in life have shaped a large portion of the way that you perceive the world, and your own personal struggles have also played a part in shaping how you craft your stories, and the kinds of stories that you want to tell and put out there for people to
Absolutely.
to experience for themselves. And maybe I imagine you're the type of person who wants to create something that'll make people think, that'll make people reflect, ask questions.
Try.
I'm the same way. I like to inspire people to think beyond their immediate experience in reality, or whatever they may be going through. Like, think beyond your own personal box and see the world for what it is. It's people are layered and terrible and wonderful and beautiful, and the creative process is a lot about trying to kind of crystallize those key ideas into something that can be presented in a form that hopefully will reach people's hearts and minds. So Can you tell us a little bit about your process, your creative process of how you get started with it? Like how do you I guess reach an idea or deem an idea worth exploring, well, let's just start there. Let's keep it really simple. Let's take it step by step. So how do you come up how do you come across how do you deem an idea to be worthy of exploring in a more creative fashion? We'll start there.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna take a moment to calibrate again.
Yeah. I got you.
My apologies.
You're fine. No worries.
It's not fun having trackers that like to drift all over the place, but I make do. Anyways, so my creative process. So, like, going back to what you were saying, I think when I make movies, I try to capture emotions that I think you can't really experience through just text or just words, really, or just explaining. I try to convey emotions that you need this all senses visual experience to kind of grab you and pull you into it, you know. And sometimes I just have ideas, like I have an emotion. I need to people understand this emotion, and the only way I can think to do that is to make a movie about it. I don't think I can just tell people about this emotion. I have to show you what this feels like. I guess I think I do that. I try to do that a lot. I think that's something that I really drives my work. I also can have my work driven by a simple idea, like this would be cool. Think like to take like crazy. You know, I had an idea at the core of it that was like, I think it'd be really cool to try to do this, and you know, I think it would be really cool. Well, first my inspiration came from the song, right? Because the song itself is really unique in that it has very introspective lyrics that are very thoughtful and examining the sort of psychology of what this character is going through, and they have to do with a relationship to another character. I think they're really the core function of the song, is that it's addressing a relationship concept, an unresolved feelings kind of relationship. But the instrumentation in this incredible cover of the song by TFM Johnny and Lydia Melody is so intense and so energetic and so powerful. So it's like you have this juxtaposition of this really powerful, intense instrumentation and this really intimate, deep, and personal lyrics. And I really struggled for a long time with how to actually build a story around that and how to actually craft a narrative that suits that. But I think what comes down to is the truest stories, the ones that stay with us the longest, are the ones that are the most personal, the ones that come from here, come from who I am, what I've experienced. I think that to make great art, I'll boil it down to 3 words: share your experience. Is how you make great art. I think it's what it boils down to, because you can tell what informs you the most. And you know, if I was going to make a movie, for example, about like an impoverished person living in South Africa, right? That's not an experience that I've had personally. You know, maybe I shouldn't still hesitate to attempt that if I have a story with that in mind, but I would want that experience to be formed by people who have had that experience, people who understand, right? But for me, the experiences that I've understand the things that I've perceived, they are fundamentally at the core of my work. I think that all of my work has a part of me in it, and I think I intentionally reach in to try to find what I can attach to, what my emotional access point to that story is. So for like Crazy, for example, I drew a lot from my own personal journey in a lot of ways and some of my own feelings, but I also drew a lot. I spoke in depth with Johnny pretty extensively about his experiences and what was on his mind, going through his head. And I worked to try to sort of put his personality, his character into this as well. And I think that shines through as well. I think you can see his passion as a creator come through in this work just as much as me. And I spoke to Lydia Melody as well, and she had a bit of a different perspective on her character. And I think for me, it was more like I learned more about this person over time and saw more of her come through in the finished product. But yeah, I think for me, I have to draw from my own personal experiences in order to make a story feel real and human, because that's my goal. It's not good enough for me to make just a cool video. It has to be human. It has to be real. It has to come from something somewhere. The other thing is I love collaborating. I love to bring on other talented artists to work with, and I love collaborating as part of the process. Like, I really like to collaborate with my actors and my performers, and I really like to have a two-way street of relationship with them, of how I work and how I bring them into the process. Like, especially when I was working on my film Ulterior Motives, working with the actors on that project, I was very much just like, I want you to do this in the way that you think you would do it, or the way that you think your character would do it. And that's very important to me. My process of filmmaking is I want to achieve the best possible performances, and I want to achieve the most humanity possible. And that requires a very delicate balance of spontaneity and control. I think all art requires a very delicate balance of spontaneity and control. So like in movies, you go in, you want to have a script, you want to have a shot list, you want to have maybe a storyboard, you want to have a clear and detailed plan and vision in your head of what it's going to look like. And you want to have all that backed up, ready to go, ready to fall back on if you need it. And then you go in, you get on set, and you might throw all of it away.
Yeah.
You might scrap everything in that plan once you get on set. But you want to have that control there for you to fall back on. And you can get in there, and then you embrace spontaneity. And you allow the spontaneity to come into your work and give it its humanity in a way that you never would have been able to do without, you know. And that comes from the acting performances. That's what makes for the most raw and believable acting performances, if you ask me. I mean, in Ulterior Motives, for example, all of the actors in that film, of all the actors in the film, I think maybe one of them had previous acting experience. Maybe a couple of them. A couple of them had previous acting experience. Actually, that's not true. There is about 3 major characters in that film that had previous acting experience, but the star was my friend, who had not had any acting experience, and some of the other very important characters had not had acting experience. But the reason I casted that movie the way that I did was because I casted based on people I knew, people that I knew could fill the roles that I wrote and play themselves in a way, people who I felt would fit, so that the barriers to good acting would be reduced, so that they could go in and just play themselves. And then I would say, on top of just playing yourself, pretty much, I want you to take ownership of this character and bring more of yourself to it, because you're a real person. The character that I wrote is not a real person, but if you bring your humanity to my character that I wrote, then you can bring that character to life in a way that I wouldn't have been able to do on my own. That's what makes collaborating so exciting for me, and that's not how every filmmaker does it. See, I don't think I'm a very good writer. I don't think I could write like a Tarantino script or a Coen Brothers script, masterpieces of screenwriting, and then they use that as the Bible. You get on set and you are going to act every word of that script exactly the way that's in the script. You're going to rehearse and rehearse and rehearse and rehearse, and you're going to deliver it perfectly. I just don't think I could do that. I think I can write a script as a blueprint, and then I can use that blueprint to build a collaborative space where the magic happens on set. That's the way that I create films. Because I really like to be in that space where I'm on set, working with the actors, keeping it going, moving things forward. It's really complicated and intense, but it's just pure adrenaline. It's pure fucking adrenaline being on set and doing that and stuff. And I think that's the most exciting part about it for me. I'm probably way off track of the original question you asked, but that's kind of my creative process.
Okay. Well, that was very, very detailed, and I appreciate the detail, so don't even worry about it. The original question was, what justifies an idea as being worthy of exploring further in artistic work? I think you may have answered the question. I mean, it wasn't very clear cut, but I think you kind of covered.
Yeah, I apologize for just being sprawling in my responses, but it's mind of an artist, how it is. But but it's like I said, I try to convey an emotion, or I try to convey an idea, or maybe I just have an aesthetic or a set piece that I think is cool, or maybe I have a song I'm working off of, or I think in my case, like, some of my best ideas, they just come fully formed into my head. Like Ulterior Motives is one of those. I had been in the VRChat club scene for a long time and experiencing a lot of different things, and I just had this idea, what if you had like a Super Brothers style comedy almost of a character or a group of characters journeying through this VRChat club scene, trying to get laid, like objectively trying to seek out a good time tonight and get laid, but then you would have this character, and I eventually narrowed it down to one female character. You'd have one female character, and she would go around and try to find all these people as potential people to like get laid, to like have a sort of intimate interaction with. But every single one of them would have some reason why, like, they don't want to, or why they don't feel like it, and I guess I felt like there's this perception of VRChat as being a very, like, horny, like, sexually excited place, and the club scene in a lot of ways is part of that, but in general VRChat is just very, like, I feel like people have this perception that VRChat is full of, like, very sexually interested people, right? But then I thought that the juxtaposition of having this character going into some of those spaces and just trying to find someone to pin down as a sexual partner for the night, and finding that to be incredibly more difficult than thought, because everybody's got something going on, and in doing so you would then explore the reasons why all these people are in VRChat and what's really going on with them, and what's
actually driving their sexual needs.
Yeah.
So
what's actually beneath the surface on all these people, So you meet all these. So the first half of the movie, she goes through and meets all these different characters, and each one of them has something going on with them, and you don't ever get like a verbal description of, like, I have depression, I'm getting over a breakup, but like you see the hints, like you see what each character is going through, and you see the development of what that indicates about their social state and what kind of person they are, and just how flawed every one of them is. And then the second half of the movie is when my protagonist Chris has to come face to face with her own deep and arresting and insurmountable flaws and insurmountable trauma that just robs her of the moment that she's been chasing, and that she's not properly addressing, and that is really hurting her and hurting her ability to connect with others. So that was an idea that I said it started out as a comedy, but like I felt that adding a dramatic scene to the end of it would balance it out. And then as I worked on that idea, it became less and less of a comedy and more of a straight drama throughout.
Where do you?
I don't know.
Yeah. Where do you find most of your ideas lean towards in terms of the genre? You know,
Leaning towards.
yeah, like you said, you're going for a comedy at first. It moved into a drama. You have this music video, which is much more intense, we'll say. That is,
Mhm.
it's meant to kind of like, focus on the intensity of the moment, and so it's more action. So let's put that into a genre. We'll say it's a more action oriented type piece.
Yeah, we can say that.
Yeah. So
It's got some nice stunts going on in there. It's got some interesting stuff that we're excited to show off. Yeah.
So where do you usually where do you find your ideas usually land in terms of genres? Are you limited in genre, or is it like, do you like to kind of explore a specific type, like drama, comedy, rom-com, action?
I kind of dislike genre as a concept. Okay. I think that I will sort of connect whatever things I need to connect in order to tell the story I'm trying to tell. So for example, in this music video, Like Crazy, yes, there is this sort of action element to it, and this sort of like technical bravado sci-fi thing going on, but then there's this also raw human story that's part of it as well, that is intertwined with that story in ways that I hope work because they're both really important to me, because I felt that, like I said, it's not enough for me to just make a cool video. I have to make it mean something. I have to make it matter somehow, and leave people thinking, and leave people with maybe a different understanding of themselves, if I can.
Yeah, you want people to leave with a sense of like they felt something, and you want them to kind of leave with some sort of thought or feeling after watching it.
Yeah, absolutely. I want it to be something that sticks in your mind. I want it to be something that you remember. I want to make it something that can't be ignored. I find myself watching so many movies these days, made in VRChat and not made in VRChat, and just being like, where's the ambition? You had something great here. It's just there's this extra push that you could have made, and it's like, this is so good, but it's missing something raw and something true that would make it legendary, that would make it stick in my mind forever. It's missing that humanity. It's missing that core. And I feel like if I make a project that doesn't have that core driving it, then it's empty. It's just visuals. It's just story. It's just plot. It's just events. Is it just events, or does it mean something? That's really important, I think. Did you go the extra mile to make this story resonate? Like I think good filmmaking is all about the extra mile that you take. It's all about that. It's all about one extra hour of editing, or a second draft of the script. That's what it is for me.
Okay. In what ways have you struggled in terms of? Well, let's talk about. Well, I mean, we've been kind of talking about like your two major projects, the ones that you're most known for, the ones that were nominated for a Raindance Immersive Award back last year and this year. So we'll kind of stay in that realm of conversation. So. What was your biggest struggle with creating Like Crazy as a music video?
Like Crazy, on this project, I learned how to not be an amateur, because on this project we attempted stuff that I would never have been able to pull off without building a team of people that know what they're doing. And I learned that lesson in really interesting ways. I don't know what I was thinking, but I was thinking, I'm just going to go into this and we'll figure out how to do it. Like, I don't know how to do this, this scares me. See, that's the thing about me is I really like challenges. I really like to run into a burning building and try to do something that nobody's ever done before. If it scares other people, I want to do it. If it's something that, you know, seems impossible, I want to try it. And I had this idea, and that was super ambitious, and I put together all these ideas, and I'm just like, okay, this is the challenge I want to take on here, but I don't know how to do it, but I'm gonna, and it scares me. It's intimidating for me to figure out how to do it, but I'm gonna figure it out. I'll just get started and see where we go. And I hit a point where I realized, like, trying to do this alone with the resources I had available to me at that time would be fucking insane. It would be fucking insane, and I would either crash and burn and fail or deliver an extremely subpar product. And I have to say that it was when I sort of sat down with the person who would become the stunt choreographer on that project, Crispy Wisp, when I started to realize that. I realized, like, what I'm trying to do is off the fucking chain, and I need people on board to help me out. So Crispy joined the project and helped stage, you know, the complexity of that project, and is credited as a choreographer, but I think did even more than that, in the sense that she helped me make connections that I wasn't making. You know, it was her idea to get more cinematographers, which I ended up doing. And I brought on like 7 of the best cinematographers in VRChat. Like, you go through the credits, you look at those names, those are the best people making videos in VRChat today. And any one of those names, you get those people to do your videos, because they are easily just some of the most skilled camera people in this game, and they happen to be people I'm generally friends with, or people that generally have a lot of respect, mutual respect with, and so they were willing to come in and help out and help me do this insane thing. And even still, with all of that, you know, we had a world developer that we worked with a little bit to help us out with getting set up for that. But even still, with all of this in place, there is still no guarantees. There's still no guarantees that we'll even pull it off, you know? Mm-hmm. But for me, it's just like, it's necessary. It has to be done. We'll get it done no matter what. I like to say done is better than perfect a whole lot. I mean, some people said don't let the perfect be your enemy of the good, but for me, it's more important to even just say, just get it fucking done. Mm-hmm. That's the priority. I want to get it done and get everybody home for dinner. I want the thing done as fast as we can reliably get it done in a way that makes sense, because I like a done project better than one that's not finished. And yeah, it's so. I went into that project absolutely certain that it was completed, because I just can do that. You know, I can walk in and be like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. We're gonna do this, and then I'll make it happen, because it has to. Because I have to make it happen. Because I write myself into a corner. I back myself up against a wall, and then I just have to fight my way out, and that puts a lot of stress on me. Mm-hmm. A lot of stress on me. But I just toughen my skin and deal with it, I guess. And so that was the hard part of like Crazy, was realizing that a lot of the way that I've been going about doing this is not healthy and not productive and not conducive to pulling off the kind of ambitious things I'm trying to pull off without just absolutely crushing my soul. And that's true of ulterior motives as well. I was doing almost everything on Ulterior Motives. I didn't bring on any other cinematographers. I didn't bring on any other. I brought on an editor to help with the VFX, but I did 99% of the editing myself, and I just like on Like Crazy, I put myself into a pressure cooker. I put myself into, the garbage compactor from Star Wars 4 and just said, like, this is going to crush me until I get it done. I think the last 2 weeks of Ulterior Motives, I just didn't sleep because I was getting it done. I was just, this needs to be done. This needs to be done. I need to take, I went through this philosophy at that time of like, I need to take as much of the hard work as possible onto myself so that other people don't have to, because I can handle it. Because I'm the person that's willing to, I'm the person with the do or die philosophy. I'm the person who doesn't have any other plan for my life. Yeah, I'm the person who doesn't have any other plan for my life except to get successful doing this.
Yeah.
And so I was like, that was my philosophy, but I think it was working out like crazy when I realized like that's not really healthy. That's not really healthy to take everything onto myself. It's not. It's like, I know I like to brave incredible challenges. I know I like to charge face forward into unwinnable wars and come out victorious. But like, I lose my grip on sanity while I do it. I'm trying to be superhuman and then blaming myself for when I can't, for just being merely human, and that gets me low sometimes. And it's like I was saying, the swings. I go through swing periods where I'm like full on intensity, going for it. I'm fucking at it. I'm slamming this project into the ground. And then I finish the project and I just swing back and then I'm like gone. I'm drained. I'm completely sucked out of it. But what I realized on Like Crazy is I build a team so I don't have to do that. I build a team so that I have people to rely on to help me take care of this. And to help me achieve these unachievable things. And because I did build a team and we pulled off something that's never been done before, something impossible. And we did it. And I think that was the hardest part of that. That's what I learned.
All right. So I did have an opportunity. I'm very, very grateful for the opportunity to get I had an exclusive look. Not really a sneak peek, but I was able to see the entirety of Like Crazy before its premiere, which will be this Saturday, at the Raindance Festival, in VRChat. So thank you for that. First of all, thank you for allowing me to take a look at Like Crazy in advance. I'm so happy that I could actually see that. So I want to ask, with regards to the process of creating Like Crazy, can you walk us through like the essentially your timeline, as the main visionary of this particular project? Can you like briefly, if possible, walk us through your timeline of how you went about planning out everything in terms of like from the initial start, initial conception of the idea, initial inspiration to completion, and about how long that all took. Kind of each thing, how long did each thing take? If you can kind of like walk us through that as briefly as possible, because it is a lot of information, I'm sure. So
yeah. Well, it technically started right after Ulterior Motives came out. Which was when, for people who don't know? That was July of last year was when Ulterior Motives came out. Very shortly after that, Johnny got in contact with me. We kind of had been eyeing each other across the room for a while. Like, I had seen him and I'm like, this guy's really cool and seems to be paying attention to what I do. And Johnny had been seeing what I do and paying attention and being like, this seems like a really cool creator. And he got in contact with me shortly after Ulterior Motives and said, let's do a music video. do a music video for me, and it'll be on my channel, and it'll be great. It'll be cool. And we were looking at a totally different song, actually. We started off looking at it at his other most recent song, but after a while, that project kind of metastasized, whatever. It just felt like we were looking at some worlds, but the worlds didn't work out, and then both of us kind of got into a bit of poor mental health place and didn't really want to work on it, and that project kind of just fell out of memory. But then towards the start of this year, we were talking, and we just really reiterated the fact that we wanted to work together. And he sent me his latest song, and I listened to it, and I was like, this is really good. I'm really inspired by this song. I would love to make something with this song. And the process from there was, I'm so sorry, I'm just going to calibrate again.
Fine.
So like I said, these trackers are just not great.
Not the best, yeah.
We make do with what we have, right? Very true in filmmaking as well.
Absolutely. You work with what equipment you got at your disposal.
But yeah, Johnny sent me the song around the start of the year, and I started, it was kind of around the time that Raindance was announced, because they announced something this year that Raindance would be moved up by several months to June, whereas last year it was in November. So by the time Raindance came around last year, I had completed Ulterior Motives, screened it, it was on YouTube, it was done, and then I just submitted the finished product to Raindance last year. But for this year, we were permitted to submit work in progress, uncompleted films, and music videos. And so I said to Johnny, we have enough time to do this. Let's shoot for Raindance with this. Let's make something crazy, and we'll shoot for Raindance. And he said, let's go for it. And so we submitted. I went into my hole and just tried to come up with a story that would work. I spent a lot of time at my part-time job, where I am, able to sort of pace and think a lot while I work. And I was in my head trying to dig something out of this story for the longest time. I had really deep conversations with Johnny. I had really deep conversations with Melody. I had really deep conversations with myself, trying to understand where the humanity in this story was going to come from, what the meaning here was, because it's like, I don't feel like I can just sit down and write a dumb story. Like, I have to really believe in what I'm writing in order for the words to even come out on the page. And obviously there are no words in this project, it's a music video, but I really liked the idea of doing a sci-fi concept. I felt like that was something different from what I'd explored before. But I felt that it also had to convey the sense of a relationship between two characters, which is what was being talked about in the song. There was an early version of it, which was like gonna have to do with a real life couple seeing each other in VR, and then in VR they would do sci-fi stuff together, spaceship shit, and then they'd have in real life meeting, but that wouldn't go as planned or whatever. But that version of the story didn't live very long. I reorganized it. It was too much. It wouldn't have fit into a single music video. It was too much of a story to properly tell in the framework of a music video. So I had to reorganize my thoughts here. And I really just dug in deep and developed something based off of... And the interesting thing about this story is it kept finding new shapes as I was working on it. I would say that even right up to close to the end of shooting, I was still deciding what to do for the last scene and how to finish it and how to tie everything together. In the end, I'm really happy with where it ended up. I think that it really captures something true and captures a story that I think is relatable.
Okay, and
as for the time scale, yeah, like I said, in January is when we first started talking about this song in particular. But it wasn't until like a couple, 2 or 3 months before Raindance that I really started to get my head onto the grindstone and start putting this together.
Gotcha. So you were able to make this music video essentially in the span of what amounts to 5-ish months, 5 to 6-ish months. You were able to kind of get that, or maybe even before then, because I imagine you had to submit
with the majority of it, with the majority of it being conceptualization. Gotcha. The conceptualization stage was by far, I would say, even more difficult than the production process, especially even considering how complicated the production process was. That was it. It's like, you know what to do. Like, it's already been laid out what you got to do, so you just need to go and do it. Whereas the conceptualization process didn't end until the very end of the video was production. The video was being produced, and it started months in advance, and it was so difficult. That was the hard part of the process for me.
Okay. All right, gotcha. What do you find? What did you find most satisfying about completing Like Crazy? And I guess let's well, I won't even ask that question. Like, what did you find most satisfying about completing Like Crazy? Like what I guess, what are you most proud of in that? Satisfied, proud of, synonyms, you know.
That is a very good question. I am proud of the fact that I never lost confidence throughout the whole way. I had an idea, and I'm like, this is really hard, but I'll be able to do it. And the whole time I believed I'll be able to do it, and then I was able to do it. And for me, it was kind of an understanding of, like, when the time comes, I'll know what's needs to be done. So yeah, maybe I was trying to go it alone for the majority of that, but when the time came that I realized I needed to build a team for this, then I did that and maintained full confidence, pulled it off, and did something, pulled off a miracle. And that's something that I think I'm the most proud of, is the fact that I was confident enough to see it through. Because I think that, this was made a collaborative project for sure, but without my confidence driving that whole thing, it wouldn't have happened. And my confidence isn't a friend that I can always, put my arm around. Sometimes my confidence takes a vacation, like it has for the past couple of weeks since I finished. It's a fickle thing, but I managed to ensnare it for this project, and when I'm on set, there is no doubt in my mind. It is just, there's no time to have doubt. You're on set, you gotta get that shit done. That's your only priority. That's the only thing you can think about. It's like, oh, I don't know what the shot's gonna be. Fuck. Okay. Get a shot list done in 5 fucking minutes and get back to filming. That's what you gotta do when you're on set.
Yeah.
It's the times that are between filming that are the parts where you freak out, where I freak out, at least, But yeah, that's what I'm most proud of, is confidence.
Love that. And are you a different person on set than you are just when you're out going to the dance and going to raves and such? Are you a different person on set than you are anywhere else, or are you ultimately the same person?
That's not a question for me. That's a question for the people that have seen me both ways. I think I think you should ask. I don't know. You should ask Mojo Peg about that, or Gab, my first AD, or some of these other people. But I would say, that depends very much on what I'm going through in life. I mean, you have to look at, for example, Ulterior Motives. I mean, that project was. It's about a character that's excuse me. About a character that's very lacking confidence and very insecure and very full of anxiety and uncertainty in her life, and she goes and has this experience that initially it might seem like she has some level of confidence, but she just breaks down. And I'm not going to say that project's an autobiography, but it very heavily was based on a lot of my own experiences and a lot of that person that I was at that time. And there's times where I'm just completely devastatingly alone and completely stripped of the things that give me that confidence. And I go through different stages of life, but when I was on like crazy, I think what really did it for me is there are other people putting their faith in me, putting their trust in me to get this done. There are other people that are giving me their time and energy for no cost and their creative talent. And I owe it to them to get it done the best that it can be done, and to not half-ass it, and to make something that's gonna fuck shit up. And I think I let that drive me. I was like, this isn't even about me anymore. This is about my team. This is about VRChat filmmaking, showing what we can do here in VRChat. It's about it's about changing the future of what's possible. It's about other people believing in me. It's about showing that the people that look up to me, the people that have their trust in me, are not being led astray, because I am worthy of that, I guess is what really, really drives that. Because at that point, it's like, this just becomes necessary. I get this done because it becomes necessary. It's completely eliminates all barriers to opposition from me getting that project done. It's like, it's just necessary to get done. So I think that's a strong source of confidence, is having other people believe in me. And it doesn't come from a sense of people pleasing. It doesn't come from a sense of like, oh, I need to do this so I don't disappoint people. It's like I watched Top Gun Maverick before we made this music video. Shortly before I watched that film, one thing I paid attention to in that is, you have this story about Tom Cruise, and he's leading a group of students, a group of fighter pilots, and he's very much like, if this goes wrong, some of these people are going to end up dead. Some of these people are going to not come home or whatever. So he's very much just like, I have to do this, and I have to make sure it gets done because of the people that I'm trying to protect. And I guess I kind of felt that sense on this project too. I'm like, I have to do this because I'm not trying to protect anybody from getting killed, but I am trying to show people that their faith in me is not wasted, and that they are capable of. Yeah, that's the thing. I'm trying to show people their own capability. I'm trying to show people that they can do things that maybe they don't even realize. I think that's what really, really drives me. Like, you know,
Can relate.
like for example, Crispy, you know, did something on this project that she never attempted before. In all of her technical experience working at Metacosm Studios and Studio Penrose, but I was able to, you know, show her like that she's capable of something like that, and you know, and you know, my videographers. I mean, these guys, a lot of these guys, some of them came from the club scene, and they had never attempted something like this before, and they were used to filming like clubs or dancers or DJs. And then I was like, all right, now you're gonna come out here, you're gonna do something unlike anything you've ever done before, and I think I just felt like I could show these people, I can expand the horizons, I can show these people like you have more power than you realize. And I think I really, really like that. I think I really like being a person who can show the people that walk with me that they're capable of even greater things than we realized, because that's not even about me. That's about enriching the lives of others. And it's like, I can do that. And I feel that I can lift up and inspire people. I mean, even Johnny, I would say there's moments where I think I've really tried to inspire him and tried to lift him up and tried to push him past his limits. Well, not too far past his limits, because he would be so eager to do that he would ignore his own health, maybe. But I tried to just show him that he's capable of really incredible stuff beyond, you know, what he normally does. So I yeah, that's what really drove me on this project. I think is showing people they're made of.
Yeah, I can, like I said, I can definitely relate to that. You know, I'm not, I can be a team player, but I prefer to work alone in most cases. But when I do have a team, I very much am trying to, you know, inspire and let them know that they can do more. They think. You know, I'm something of a visionary myself. And it's definitely so important to keep, you know, your team motivated, especially when you're like when you formed it. Keeping people motivated, keeping people inspired, and letting them know that, hey, like, we're all in this together, is really necessary. And but it's hard work, but it's very fulfilling to work with people who not only understand you, but actually are willing to put their best foot forward to create and or achieve something that they otherwise probably wouldn't have without you, with you kind of like pushing them from the back and, you know, reassuring them that they can do it, showing them that they can. I think that's really wonderful and really important to do, as, you know, as someone who's a visionary, like yourself. So I love that, and we definitely do share that mindset for sure. But when it comes to well, we're gonna actually move on to another topic, which we talk about here on the Sweet Talking podcast. It was really great hearing about like your creative process and like the ways that you've improved yourself and worked towards, you know, ultimately achieving what Like Crazy is and what people can hopefully look forward to, based on the kind of person that you are and the character and the quality that you aim towards. And I'm certainly hoping that people will definitely take a look at it. Will definitely watch it once it's, you know, widely available. You know, that's certainly my hope. But yeah, it was really good to hear your perspective on all of that. So thank you for sharing that with us. I really do appreciate that. So last couple of questions for you. Where would you like to be 2 years from now?
Well, I'm 26, James Cameron made Terminator when he was 30. You know, that movie blew up, became an instant success, and started his career. So I look at my life and I'm like, could I make Terminator in 4 years from where I'm at? The answer is maybe, but only if I busted my ass as hard as I possibly could. But, you know, I've just been through this thing, this sort of existential moment from, like, is this what I want to do? Is this who I am? Am I just a creature of drive? Am I just running this race and ignoring the things that are in front of me that could make me happy? This is the path I really want to be on? Is this actually going to make me happy? But I don't think it matters. I think it's in my nature. I think when I watched Dune 2 and I saw that in IMAX and the movie finished, and it was like I had been swept over by a massive tidal wave of emotions, and I just felt like there's nothing in the world that's going to stop me from trying to do shit like that. There's nothing in the world that's going to get in the way of me. That's innately who I am. I mean, that is it's just instinct to break out of every fucking box that I've ever been put in, and push infinitely far beyond what anybody ever thought I could do. You know? And born without a whole lot of resources to be able to do that, but you fight, you claw your way up, fight tooth and nail, lie, cheat, and steal, whatever you have to do to get where you want to go. And for me, I think whether or not this journey of trying to make movies will make me happy, whether or not it will get in the way of my ability to have happy relationships, whether or not whatever's going on with me, whoever I am, it's innately my being that I can't escape, because no matter what I do, I won't be satisfied. I'm a creature of instinct, and I'm gonna fucking fight for what I fucking want. And I have that tenacity to claw further, just a little bit further, and I don't know, I just feel like my instinct's gonna keep me going on this path, but I don't know if I'll be happy. So 2 years from now, where do I want to be? I don't know, being happy would be nice, but who knows? Where will I be? I'll be doing the same shit. I'll be working on movies. I'll be trying to get bigger. I'll be trying to push these things further and further. I'll be working on some movie, maybe in VR, but I'm starting to try to move out into real life as well and get a bit of real life filmmaking done as well. And I think if you ever want to look to find me, you know, anytime in the future, you'll find me behind a camera somewhere, because that's just who I am. That's my innate being.
Yeah, I love that. And personally, I think that pursuing your dreams and pursuing your goals, for me, I think that's where happiness lies. You know, pursuing the things that we're called to do, or the thing that like, I truly believe there's one thing that everyone has. There's one thing that everyone has that they can do, and we don't always figure it out immediately. But when we do figure it out, I believe that can be and should be the source of our happiness. We should do everything possible to keep that fire burning and to continue to move forward towards the thing that we've acknowledged as like, this is a thing that like I can't stop thinking about this, and I have to continue to do it to the best of my ability, because that's the one thing that I've been given to do here, through this life. And I think personally, that's for me where happiness lies, pursuing that dream, that goal, because I truly believe that goals won't betray you. Goals won't turn their backs on you. Goals only turn their backs on you if you turn your backs on it. And to me, that's the biggest reassurance that anyone can have in life. So pursue, I believe pursuing your goals is like the key to, living a fulfilling life. But it doesn't always lead to the happiness we may explore, and that may require us to kind of look elsewhere. But at least we're doing the thing that's going to give us the most fulfillment, like we did the thing that we were here to do, at the very least, above all else. Yeah, I certainly do. I have no doubt that you will continue to do what you're doing, Ariel, 100%. And I 100% look forward to seeing, what you end up getting up to behind the camera, 2-4 years from now, for sure. And so my last question for you is, if you could say anything to aspiring videographers, people who admire you and look up to you and love your work, if you could say anything to those people who love and appreciate what you do, what would you say to them?
Make stuff that cannot be ignored. Don't make things unless you know for a fact that you can make it and get it to the level where it's impossible to look away. Like, have the ambition that is needed to fucking push beyond what you see around you, what you see other people doing. Have the ambition that is needed. And the other thing is 100% of being good at this job is about working with people and being humble. I talked about this a lot in the Meta Prestige interview. Be humble. Humility is your most important trait in this field, and I'm sure in many others. Be humble. You're not better than anybody else. The only person you're testing yourself against is you. And be good at working with people. Take care of the people that give their time and energy to help you. And have the fucking ambition to do it the best that you can possibly do it. Put 100% of yourself into your work. That's what I'd say.
All right. I think that's a great note to leave off on. So where can people find you? Where can people find you, Ariel?
YouTube, Ariel Emerald. Twitter, Ariel Emerald VR. Ariel Emerald VR. Or X, as they call it these days. VRChat, Ariel Emerald. Feel free to come find me. I probably won't accept a request unless we've spoken, but feel free to come find me. See me. Discord, Ariel_Emerald. I'm very open to DMs. Anybody wants to message me, ask about anything, ask about working together, ask about getting my opinion on something. I'm very open to that. You can join the Filmmakers Discord as well. Find me there. Or the Archangel Film Discord. Either way. Generally, everywhere that matters, I'm under the same name. So if you look up Ariel Emerald, that's where I am.
All right. And as for me, if anyone is interested in finding me, you can find me at Neferty with 2 eyes on Twitter, Twitter X, as well as on Twitch. And you can also find me on YouTube at Nefertiti with one I instead of two. You can find me there. And you can obviously find me on Patreon. That is where you can also find means where you can support me, help me create the things I'm creating. Look for me there at patreon.com/Nefertiti. And if you're interested in learning more about the podcast and seeing more about other guests that are coming up and keeping track of the when we're having our next guests coming through, please feel free to follow the Twitter. The podcast Twitter, which is Sweet Talking Pod, at Sweet Talking Pod. So please do that, and that'd be great if you're interested in doing that. But before we wrap things up here, I want to let you all know that there will be a post-show, there will be post-content that we do after every podcast. If you're interested in seeing the questions that I will be asking Ariel behind, not quite behind the scenes, but for our post-content, if you're interested in seeing that part of tonight's interview, you can do so by subscribing to my Patreon. It is exclusive content that is for my patrons. So if that is interesting to you and you want to hear more of my conversation with Ariel, please feel free to check out the Patreon. I'd really, really appreciate it. And yeah, that'd be great. So, but for the rest of you, for those of you who are watching on YouTube right now, I want to thank Ariel for joining me tonight. Thank you so much for being my guest this evening. I had a wonderful time learning more about you and hearing your process and the things that you're passionate about, and just kind of getting a better understanding of like who you are as a person. Because I of course I was very much interested in like crazy, but what we do here is we very much pride ourselves on going after the human connection. The human connection is extremely important and can often be forgotten about in this very technologically connected age. Like you said earlier, and I've said in the past, we are the most connected that we've ever been, but as more disconnected than we've ever been. It is simultaneously happening at faster and faster speeds. So that's why I do this podcast. So I want to thank you for being a part of that and collaborating with me on this little venture of mine to reach people in this way. So thank you for sharing your heart and your creativity with us, Ariel. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me once again.
Yeah,
really glad to be here.
Absolutely my pleasure. 100% my pleasure. I truly am very, very privileged to have you on my podcast. So thank you for taking the time. And with that, we're going to say goodbye to those of you on YouTube. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Sweet Talking Podcast. This was episode 41 with my guest, Ariel Emerald. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. If something about our conversation resonated with you in some way, please feel free to leave a like, a comment, and subscribe. Please subscribe to the YouTube. I really, really would appreciate that. And of course, please stay tuned for the next episode of the Sweet Talking Podcast. I've been your host, Nefertiti. I'm joined by Ariel Emerald, and we will see you in the next one. So until then, be kind to others, be kind to yourselves. You never know who's going through something serious. And until next time, guys, I'll see you next time. Take care. Oh, bye-bye. Yeah, bye-bye, bye-bye.